Man, Resident Evil Village looks great on this gaming PC. Or at least I assume it does, because that has nothing to do with what you're looking at right now. Apple, of all companies, is pushing mobile gaming to a level that I wouldn't have thought possible. Modern AAA titles running not in the cloud, but in the palm of your hand? Is Apple's best gaming computer an iPhone? I mean, sure, we're running it at 720p, the graphics are set to low, and the FPS isn't crazy high. But when modern games already look pretty darn good at low, and you're scaling down to a screen this size, I mean, hey, playable is playable. And at the end of the day, all any of us really want is access to quality games that were made to be enjoyed. So if we can run them well enough on a device that we were gonna have in our pockets anyway, I hate to use Apple words, but this is kind of magical. Like this magical segue to our sponsor, The Ridge. Upgrade your everyday carry to the Ridge wallet. Its RFID blocking technology protects your cards from digital theft, while its durable materials ensure that it lasts for years to come. Click the link below and use code Linus to get 10% off your purchase and get free shipping. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of good, even great mobile games. It's just that the vast majority of them come with annoyances like microtransactions, time gates, or boring activities you need to slog through before you can enjoy the actual fun gameplay that they show off in the countless trailers that you've probably seen, sometimes here on our channels. By contrast, AAA, assuming it's not a game as a service, tends to be the opposite, allowing me to marry the convenience of this with the enjoyment of something more like this. It looks really great, but there are definitely problems. And I'm definitely noticing the occasional FPS drop, but it's very usable. Like, man, that character model looks pretty good for low settings. I will say that the,
You go left, back into the left.
You said back into the left, eh? There's
Yeah.
nothing here, Plouf. Nope, I'm dead. The on-screen controls take up a solid 50% of the screen. Control issues aside, this is absolutely playable, though it's worth noting that playable doesn't mean easily playable. We observed some pretty toasty temperatures during extended gaming sessions, and even not that extended, reaching Apple's serious thermal state after just 1.5 minutes when we tried running at the iPhone 15 Pro's native resolution of 1179p. And if you were hoping to have the same experience that I am right now, and you don't have an iPhone 15 Pro, the answer is no. It won't even launch on an iPhone 15 or lower than that, which could almost be an entire video on a more Apple-centric channel, like what per app, per device granular performance scaling is gonna mean for a marketplace like the App Store. But who could do such a deep dive? No idea. Anyway, the simple version is I think this could end up being a little overwhelming for your more casual iOS gamer who assumes, well, what, I have a reasonably modern device, I should just be able to download and play most things on the store. Coming back to thermals though, it should be noted that serious is still 1 state shy of critical and 2 degrees of separation, pun intended, from shut down. So it's not like the device isn't working as intended. And if you use a controller, whether it's a USB-C one like this, or less ideally, a Bluetooth controller, then pop it back down to 720p rendering, all of a sudden, no overheating hands, and some of the other problems disappear as well. Okay, here we go. Oh, this is so much better. Ah! It wasn't back into the left. It was, oh wait, that is left. Well, okay, whatever. The point is, this might take up a bit more space in your bag, and good luck keeping it in your pocket, especially if you're wearing clothing designed for women, but dare I say it makes the experience enjoyable? I think I do dare say that. Like, this is not bad. I would even go as far as to say that this is more comfortable than some of the dedicated handhelds that have come out recently. Comfortable like our toasty 3D down jacket for the fall and winter months. It looks and feels good. LTTstore.com. Speaking of which, while the Steam Deck kicked off a revolution in portable gaming, how sick would it be if you just didn't need one? For comparison then, I've got both the most popular and the most powerful portable gaming decks, the Nintendo Switch and the ROG Ally Z1 Extreme. Let's see if these deliver a good enough for betterer experience to justify carrying around their bulk. The bigger screen is very unforgiving, but there's no doubt that the game is running way smoother in spite of the fact that an ROG Ally costs only about 70% as much as the latest iPhone. With that said, it's a completely separate device that you're gonna have to carry around. Man, the way the shadows are handled is really ugly. Yeah, whatever. Just chill, brother. Oh, what happened? Is that the dad? This is messed up, man. If I had to guess, I'd say the frame rate is at least double, maybe even a little bit more. And yep, at the same resolution and gameplay settings, it is 3 to 4 times higher. But it's worth noting that the Ally is pushing slightly fewer pixels at 720p because it uses a 16:9 aspect ratio rather than 19.5:9. Why does your Ally run so loud? Oh, you're in 30-watt turbo mode.
Because it's plugged in.
The good news is that even turning it all the way down to 15 watts, where we would get 2.5 plus hours of battery life, we're still getting well over 100 FPS. It's a markedly better gaming experience. Let's try the Switch. Wow. I'm not sure what I expected from the Switch, but that kind of stutter probably wasn't it.
Especially since it's streaming.
Sorry, you said it's streaming.
Oh,
Oh! There's no option to play Resident Evil Village. You can only play Resident Evil Village Cloud. I didn't even know the Switch had a cloud service.
And now you get to buy the game and then you get access to this game-specific cloud.
What? You buy the game and you just get a cloud version of the game?
I don't make the rules, Linus.
I mean, the graphical fidelity looks amazing, but the latency is really bad. Really bad. Look at this. We don't even need to use slow-mo capture to show you guys this. Like, I let go and the screen's like, What really blows me away is even if you were okay with this gaming experience, you're not gonna be able to take it with you on the go because in order to game from the cloud, you need a strong internet connection. The only way I can see this making sense to Nintendo is if they are desperate for a response to competition after they just don't bother launching more powerful hardware for, I don't know, 6.5 years. Man, I didn't think the Ally had a bad screen, and it doesn't, but the iPhone is so much better. Look at the fire.
The Ally looks so washed out in comparison.
Yeah, just way richer. With that said, 120 FPS versus 30 FPS, definitely an advantage, but do you want to carry this around everywhere? It's obviously going to be a personal choice. For my part, whether I would choose it or not, I'm just blown away that this exists at all. And impressions aside, I want to talk about the hard numbers. To identify how the various factors affect performance, we took a baseline pure raster measurement, testing with the Prioritize Performance preset at 720p without MetalFX upscaling. We're going to talk about MetalFX later. That landed us in the 40 FPS average range with dips to about 30 frames per second. As I experienced, it's very playable. But what happens if we step up to the Prioritize Graphics preset? We expected to get some lower percent of the original FPS, and I guess if you think about it, we did. 0. 0's a percent. Now to be clear, it didn't immediately crash at the Prioritize Graphics preset, and it looked noticeably better up until it did, especially the shadows. But with us already sneaking below that all-important 30 FPS mark at Prioritize Performance, it feels like Prioritize Graphics is more of a preview of how the game might look on a future iPhone or a larger, more powerful Apple device, rather than something you are actually intended to use today. The next thing we tried was to dial it back to performance prioritization and then set our resolution to native, 2556 by 1179. And here, even without the extra eye candy, it hit the iPhone hard, utilizing nearly all of our GPU while netting us about 22 frames per second average, with our 1% lows falling in the 12 FPS territory. That is also not a good experience. And at this point, if I was Capcom, I do love, by the way, they are taking an aspirational approach and they didn't dumb down the port. But if I was them, I would probably stick a disclaimer in front of both of these options in the menu explaining, hey, I know the game's running like crap, but there's nothing wrong with your phone or the game. It's just that these settings are intended for more powerful or for future hardware. Now it's time to talk about MetalFX upscaling. Unlike NVIDIA's first iteration of DLSS, we saw very little in the form of garbo artifacting. And I think a big part of this is because we're using a smaller screen, but I also think part of it is that Apple's done a pretty solid job of it. I was able to pick it out, but it didn't bother me when I was just trying to experience the game. The bad news is we didn't see much in the way of a performance improvement at 720p. I mean, 10% more FPS is 10%, I'm not gonna say no to it, but 1% lows were basically the same, which indicates to me that the render scale wasn't actually changed that much. However, at our pseudo 1200p with MetalFX enabled, we go from a pathetic 22 FPS to 31 frames per second, a 40% gain that still falls well short of the almost doubling we saw in our 1% lows. Now that is fantastic and indicates that they are rendering at a significantly lower resolution, probably closer to 720p, and that their upscaling is working pretty darn well. Now, at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, I mean, that's nice, Linus, but what, you'll be gaming for 20 minutes? This must crush the battery life of the iPhone. But you're actually mistaken.
Gaming at 1200p should be possible for over 2 hours with brightness maxed. And at 720p, you can expect more like 3. It's not amazing, but you can comfortably turn the brightness way down to get a lot more time out of it.
When you consider that handhelds like the Ally or the Steam Deck generally only last for 2 to 3 hours depending on your power settings, that's kind of awesome. And if this is just the start of what we can expect from Metal and Apple's A-series silicon, frankly, I am not impressed. I'm excited. I mean, a few years ago, I wouldn't have even believed that this was coming. But here we are, which either means that Apple's engineering team is awesome, or that I'm an incurable cynic. Probably a little bit of both. And one big advantage for the iPhone that I've only just touched on is the display. This is a Super Retina XDR OLED, which, marketing mumbo jumbo aside, means that it is pretty freaking awesome. It clocks in with a pixel density of 460 ppi. Like the Ally, it refreshes it up to 120 hertz, but unlike the Ally, the HDR experience is phenomenal. Like, it is just immediately obvious to the eye how much better this looks, and a big part of that is thanks to its OLED per pixel local dimming, not to mention the staggering 1600 nits of peak brightness that it can hit based on our testing. You can complain about the size, but it is quite literally the nicest screen in your house and probably the best screen on anything that could be called a handheld console. And while the game title list is short today, unlike the Android gaming phones that are on the market, this thing is slated for access to some very serious titles. Village should be out by the time this video is up, the Resident Evil 4 remake is out later this year, and Assassin's Creed Mirage is slated for early 2024. Arguably, that list is still very short, but these are major releases from big developers like Capcom and Ubisoft. So it's clear that when Apple said they were going to make porting games to Apple Silicon easier, they meant it. Now, there is another alternative for the Android users out there. Sort of. A few years ago, xCloud came to Android for Game Pass Ultimate subscribers, which is super cool. But for gamers who are more sensitive to input lag, like myself, it's gotta be noted that it relies heavily on data center proximity and Wi-Fi quality, and it's never gonna feel quite like the local experience, even if that local experience is running at a lower FPS. And there's just so much more to love about this. Imagine, with everything synced to iCloud, playing across multiple devices should be a breeze. So theoretically, you fire up Resident Evil on your M2 iPad Pro or your MacBook, and then you head out to catch the bus and you just keep gaming on your iPhone without missing a beat. Who knows? Maybe once the new Apple TV launches, it'll have an A17 Pro chip in it as well, so you could seamlessly game from the couch in your all Apple ecosystem. If you want to get a head start, by the way, we're gonna have all those products linked in the description down below. For now, this is just the beginning, and it's got me pretty excited. Excited, like I am to tell you about our sponsor. Antlion Audio. If you know about Antlion Audio, it's probably because of their mod mics, solid, versatile mics that attach to any headset or flat surface. But if you use in-ear monitors, because you are a true connoisseur of the finer things in life, then you're going to love Antlion's Kimura line of headsets. The standalone microphone cable connects with most MMCX or 2-pin IEMs, so you can turn your existing in-ear monitors into a comfortable headset, or you can pick up some IEMs from Antlion directly. Their Kimura Solo is a pair of handcrafted resin IEMs with a dynamic driver for excellent clarity and snappy bass, or you can upgrade to the Duo, which adds a single balanced armature for more detail in the treble range. Antlion positions both of these as a great choice for critical listening or competitive gaming. Plus, they include a Y-splitter, allowing you to use your monitors whether you're gaming on a PC with separate jacks or a console that has a 4-pole combo jack. Click the link in the description to check out Antlion's Kimura Duo and change how you play today. If you guys enjoyed this video, maybe check out our iPhone 15 Pro announcement video. There's a lot of goods about this, honestly, in my opinion, pretty cool phone.